Hi, Elise. How are you? Good to see you.
Good. How are you doing, Donna?
I'm good.
Good.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll start the session today. So let's first set our motivation for the class. We can rejoice that we have a perfectly qualified Mahayana virtuous friend and teacher who's given us vows and who is capable of and is teaching, answering the questions of this Lamrim Tsongkhapa text or commentary on the Lamrim Tsongkhapa, great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, which summarizes in stages the 84,000 teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. So as Babongka Rinpoche said, we can set our motivation by thinking, I will achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, my past mothers. I will therefore listen to this profound teaching on the three scopes of the Lamrim and then practice it properly. So we're on the great scope. So let's start by saying some beginning prayers, which I will share now.
And just very quickly, while Lamala is bringing those prayers up, a reminder that it's good to listen closely and carefully and note down any questions you have, send them to me in chat, and I'll relay them to Geshe. Thank you.
Thank you, Domasi. So now we'll share. Okay, let's start with the Refuge and Bodhichitta prayer. 3 times. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, let's see. Now the short mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Okay, so now I'm going to start, if you have the hard copy, page 454 of the Essence of the Vast Profound. In the section, the actual stages of training the mind has 3 sections. Now this is towards the end of day 24, closer to the end than from the beginning of this chapter. The actual stages of training the mind has 3 sections. The way to train in Bodhichitta, 2, training the mind by way of the 7-fold oral instructions of cause and effect, 3, the importance of compassion. The way to train in Bodhichitta. As the teacher stated, you must train in stages. The teacher taught 2 systems for this. 1, the instructions on the 7-fold cause and effect that come from the liberation of Maitreya Sutra, and 2, train the mind in ways of equalizing and exchanging myself with others, which is taught in the sport of Manjushri Sutra. Atisha is the lord of them both. Equalizing and exchanging self with others contains all the points of the instructions on the 7-fold cause and effect, yet these 7 do not contain all the points of equalizing and exchanging self with others. Nevertheless, The instructions on the sevenfold cause and effect are an important preliminary, and if you train your mind in these 7, it will give great strength to equalizing and exchanging self with others. Training the mind by way of the sevenfold oral instructions of cause and effect. For all 7 of these, each of the previous stages functions as a cause for the subsequent stages. To generate bodhicitta in your mental continuum, you take on the burden of others' welfare as your superior intention. To generate that superior intention in your mental continuum, it must be preceded by compassion that is unable to bear others being tormented by suffering. To generate great compassion in your mental continuum, it must be preceded by a mind of affectionate love for all living beings that is similar to love for one's own child. To generate affectionate love, you must perceive all living beings as benevolent. As a precursor to that, you must consider all living beings as your mother, recall their kindness, and develop the wish to repay their kindness. If you first recognize all living beings as your mother, the wish to repay their kindness will emerge. Due to the emergence of that, you will develop affectionate love, and so on. Thus, each of the previous contemplations induces each of the subsequent contemplations. Or, according to the teachings of Atisha, the translation equivalent of instruction is upadesha in Sanskrit, which means essential practice, and that which functions to abandon harm. For this, there are 2 ways of training the mind. Because the first is generated in a definite sequence, the headings are taught in that sequence. To state them in reverse sequence, complete enlightenment emerges from bodhicitta. That bodhicitta emerges from superior intention. That superior intention emerges from compassion. That compassion emerges from affectionate love that cherishes all beings like an only child. That affectionate love emerges from repaying kindness of all beings. That repayment emerges from recalling their kindness, and that recalling their kindness emerges from perceiving them as your mother. At this point, there are extensive teachings on how the 3 components of recognizing all beings as your mother, recalling their kindness, and repaying their kindness are the cause of great compassion, as well as how superior intention and so on are a result of great compassion. Thus, great compassion is extremely important. Although bodhicitta is the sole cause of a Buddha, it is born from great compassion. Therefore, we must sincerely apply ourselves to great compassion. Compassion is important in the beginning. In general, with respect to secret tantra, we must develop an exceedingly special and superior bodhicitta. If you don't have bodhicitta, although you may practice secret tantra with the desire to become enlightened for yourself alone, you will become a pratyeka Buddha. Furthermore, with respect to a bodhisattva or the perfection vehicle, this is similar to a situation where if a child were to fall into a fire, although others might wish to pull him out, they would not immediately implement a means of extracting him. With respect to a bodhisattva of secret tantra, this is analogous to a situation where the child's father would find it unbearable to leave his son even for a short time in a fire pit, would find it necessary to jump into the fire pit, and once he jumped in, he would immediately pull his son out. Therefore, the difference in the bodhicitta of the perfection vehicle and that of secret tantra is similar to the difference in intensity of the compassion of the father whose son fell into the fire pit, and that of his other relatives, and so forth. There are 5 special features that determine the speed with which even a bodhisattva progresses on the path of the Mahayana, as well as how weak the power of compassion is. If you have very strong compassion, that will result in very powerful bodhicitta and bring great power to everything else, such as your bodhisattva deeds and so on. To the degree of that compassion, you will quickly progress to the state of enlightenment. For that reason, within the 3 commentaries, great compassion occurs at this point. Thus, since great compassion is so important, Glorious Chandrakirti stated in Guide to the Middle Way, because compassion itself is the seed of the supreme harvest of the conquer, as well as water for its growth, and the fruit that remains for a long time, I begin by praising compassion. Great compassion is like the seed for the crop of attaining the state of enlightenment. Initially, compassion is important as a cause for entering the Mahayana. Bearing the responsibility of liberating migrating beings depends on compassion, and compassion is likewise the path and the fruit of the Mahayana for bodhicitta and so forth. Therefore, in the beginning, compassion is like the helping hand of migrating beings. Great compassion is so extremely important that it has a separate heading explaining it as the root of the path. The Compendium of True Dharma Sutra states that of all powers, great compassion is the life force in the beginning and draws the analogy of it being like the precious wheel that is the first of the 7 precious possessions of a Chakravartin king. That same sutra, that is the Compendium of True Dharma Sutra, states, if a bodhisattva were to properly grasp and realize a single Dharma, he would hold all the Dharmas of the Buddha in the palm of his hand. What is that single Dharma? It is great compassion. Bhagawan, the Dharma of all Buddhas, that the Bodhisattvas hold in the palms of their hands is great compassion. Bhagawan, this is analogous to the way in which wherever the precious wheel of a Chakravartin king exists, his army also exists. Bhagawan, likewise, wherever the great compassion of Bodhisattva exists, all dharmas of the Buddha also exist. Bhagawan, for example, the life force exists, all other powers also exist. Bhagawan, likewise. If great compassion exists, there will also emerge the other dharmas of a Bodhisattva. Compassion is important in the middle. You may develop great compassion at one time, and if you have great compassion, you can work for the welfare of living beings despite their bad behavior and engage in whatever austerities are required without this ever becoming wearing or causing your bodhicitta to decline. Although Arya Shariputra was initially a bodhisattva, he gave his right hand to an evil Mara, whereby the evil Mara placed the hand on his head and said, don't give me that, which caused him to become discouraged about compassion. Compassion is important in the end. While Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and so forth are in single-pointed meditative equipoise, they do absolutely nothing for the welfare of living beings, yet no matter how long the Buddha remains in meditative equipoise on peace, he continuously works for the welfare of living beings, which comes from his great compassion. The teacher, Shang Na-chung, asked Atisha for advice, to which Atisha replied, give up on this life, meditate on love, compassion, and bodhicitta. The teacher, Shang Na-chung, said, even though I asked for dharma, he said nothing other than that. Dontoba replied, that was Atisha's innermost instruction. These instructions are difficult to absorb within your mind. They are all very difficult to develop. Therefore, you must make a sincere effort at the means of accumulating merit, purifying negative karma, and so on. How compassion is either cause or effect for the others in the sevenfold instructions of cause and effect has two sections. 1. How love comes from recognizing all beings as your mother. 2. The actual stages of training the mind in bodhicitta. In general, there are two similar aspects of compassion. Compassion that is unable to bear living beings being tormented by strong suffering, and great compassion for which we need affection for all living beings, whether they be enemies, friends, or strangers. Furthermore, strength or weakness of your great compassion rises in accordance with the extent to which your affection and concern are great or small. To perceive them in an aspect of affection and concern, you must perceive all living beings as your dear mother, who is the ultimate loved one. For that reason, recognizing all beings as your mother, recalling their kindness, and wishing to repay their kindness are causes, while great compassion is the result. The wish that living beings have happiness is love. To receive all living beings is extremely pleasing, and cherish them deeply like a mother's love for her child is affectionate love. Therefore, the love of the sevenfold cause and effect is affectionate love. If we generate affectionate love for all living beings, we will generate compassion that wishes that they will have happiness and be free of suffering. Query: if you generate great compassion that not only wishes that all living beings be free from suffering, but also wishes to protect them from suffering, wouldn't there be no need to contemplate superior intention in between generating compassion and then generating bodhicitta? Reply: though the bodhisattva has a thought, I alone will ensure that living beings are free from suffering and come to possess happiness. Therefore, we need superior intention, which is not possessed by Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. If that were not necessarily so, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas would have bodhicitta. You must have the thought that thinks, only a Buddha has the capacity to establish all living beings in a state that is free from every suffering and that possesses every form of happiness. Therefore, I must attain the state of a Buddha for the welfare of all living beings. Day 25. The King of Dharma, Tsongkhapa the Great, stated in the three principal aspects of the path: carried away by the currents of the four powerful rivers, tightly bound by the chains of karma that are difficult to release, tangled within the iron web of self-grasping, enveloped by the thick, all-obscuring darkness of ignorance, continuously taking rebirth in boundless samsara, and unceasingly tormented by the three types of suffering, generate the supreme mind of bodhicitta by contemplating the state of affairs of their mothers who are in such a situation. As Master Jampal Drakpa states, just as it is unbearable for us to be tormented by the sufferings of samsara, so our mother living beings are in the same situation. They are continuously tormented by the four rivers: 1, the river of desire; 2, the river of samsara; 3, the river of ignorance; and 4, the river of wrong view. Sometimes they are bound by immutable karma, and so forth. In short, they have been thrust into a dark prison of ignorance and so forth. Although living beings are tormented by the suffering samsara in the same way you are, they have nurtured you with kindness since beginningless time in samsara and are nothing other than your dear mothers. Set your motivation for listening to the teachings by thinking, therefore, I will listen to the stages on the path to enlightenment, that is the king of instructions of the Mahayana, so that I alone can liberate my dear mothers from the ocean of samsara. The actual stages of training the mind in bodhicitta has two sections. 1. Training the mind in stages of the sevenfold instructions of cause and effect. 2. Training the mind in equalizing and exchanging self and others. Training the mind in stages of the sevenfold instructions of cause and effect. Training the mind to strive for the welfare of others and training the mind to strive for enlightenment are both indispensable for attaining the state of enlightenment. Venerable Maitreya proclaimed, bodhicitta is the desire for perfect and complete enlightenment for the welfare of others. Training the mind in stages of the sevenfold instructions of cause and effect has 8 sections. 1. Equanimity. 2. Recognizing all beings as your mother. 3. Recalling their kindness. 4. Repaying their kindness. 5. Meditating on affectionate love. 6. Training the mind in great compassion. 7. Superior intention. 8. Meditating on bodhicitta. Equanimity. Presently, we don't train our minds in impartiality toward enemies, friends, and strangers. For example, just as we must smooth the surface of a wall prior to painting a mural, so we must equalize our minds toward all living beings prior to developing love and compassion in our mental continuums. At this point, the teachings state that there is equanimity from the perspective of other sentient beings and equanimity from our own perspective. Regarding the former, that is, perspective of other sentient beings, this is the equanimity included in the 4 immeasurables that are at the beginning of the Lamrim ritual preliminaries. Therefore, you will not be completely successful in the latter aspect until the attainment of enlightenment. Regarding the latter, that is your own perspective, this is the equanimity in which we are currently training our minds. Training the mind in equanimity at this point will be easy to develop if you meditate by visualizing all living beings as being neutral. Regarding living beings that are neutral, because they are neither friends nor enemies, you don't have thoughts of either attachment or hatred. These are thoughts of forsaking, therefore, they are an impediment to equanimity. The queries of the Supreme Moon Daughter states, in the past I have killed all of you, and you previously cut me into pieces. Since we have all killed each other's enemies, how could you develop such attachment? This accords with the previous explanations about training our minds in the uncertainty of samsara according to a person of middling capacity by considering how neutral living beings have been our enemies and friends, how someone who currently our friend has been our enemy in the past, and how these are currently our enemies have previously been our friends. If you meditate by combining this point with the next, you will easily induce confidence with respect to equanimity that regards all living beings as those dear to you. Also, once you focus on enemies, friends, and neutral persons and view them with partiality and impartiality, you will generate 3 distinct thoughts that are conjoined with false variance. Presently, we don't have a mind of equanimity toward enemies and friends. Instead, we classify them into definite friends and enemies. We should not make such classifications, and instead contemplating how, in all our past and future lives, our enemies have become friends, our friends have also become enemies, and so on. Some people don't see any contradiction in grasping at enemies and friends from the perspective of this life, but they do not recognize friends and enemies according to previous lives. Yet we may have the mistaken conception that if the past and future existed, they should be directly observable at this present moment, which is not the case. For example, if someone gave us butter and a brick of tea last year, and this year punched us in the head, or if a person punched us in the head last year and gave us butter and a brick of tea this year, there wouldn't be any difference between the two. If we succeed in developing a mind of equanimity without hatred for enemies, attachment to friends, or forsaking of neutral persons, then we should meditate by focusing on all living beings as pervasive as space. Therefore, it is meaningless for us to be biased, since from our perspective, everyone is similar in that they are our loved ones who have nurtured us with kindness. From the perspective of other living beings, they are alike in that they wish to be happy, don't wish to suffer, and are all equally tormented. If you succeed in developing a mind of equanimity toward all living beings, by training your mind so that there are absolutely no thoughts of attachment or hatred for those that are close and distant, then you have generated equanimity, which is the foundation for the sevenfold instructions of cause and effect. Equanimity is very important, as the omniscient Gyaltsab stated, moistening the ground of equanimity with the water of love, the seeds of bodhicitta continually grow into the tree of bodhicitta. I prostrate to the supreme resultant fruit of omniscience. From equanimity onward, like the realizations, get even harder to cultivate. J. Tsongkhapa stated is incomprehensible for the ordinary beings of the world. Although this hasn't made its way into our minds, it is indispensable for enlightenment. Therefore, bodhicitta is the root of the Mahayana path, that even if you must persist in each of these meditation topics for generating bodhicitta for many years and months, it will not be a waste of time. The Buddhas of the past and numerous holy beings understood that even recognizing all beings as your mother is to be practiced for many eons. Atisha stayed with Serlingpa for 13 years for the sake of training in bodhicitta. Jontopa properly relied upon Atisha for 17 years, and so on. Recognizing all beings as your mother. Next is the meditation on all beings as your mother. Although there are limitless different aspects of reasoning to come to a definitive conclusion with respect to emptiness, for recognizing all beings as your mother, there is no reason for establishing the infinite bounds of consciousness other than the following quote from a commentary on valid cognition. When someone takes rebirth, his breath, sense powers, and mind are not developed solely from the body, which does not depend upon a continuum of a similar kind. Furthermore, the moment a small child is born, its attributes of awareness come from a preceding mind because it is awareness. For example, this is similar to your awareness of today. You must establish the infinite bounds of your previous lives through these perfect logical arguments. The definition of the term mind is synonymous with mind, awareness, and to know. In this way, the mind of today is the continuity of yesterday's mind, and the mind of this life, which existed the moment I was born from my mother's womb, is the continuity of the mind that existed the moment before I entered the womb of my mother. Therefore, this proves its existence prior to rebirth. Next, the mind of my previous life is the continuity of mind of a previous life, and likewise for the time prior to that. If you continue to pursue with prior to that, there will never be a beginning to samsara, which establishes that the mind is beginningless and endless. A letter dispelling suffering states in hell time and time again. Contemplating this way also proves the infinite bounds of your previous lives. If they are beginningless in this way, then with the exception of a miraculous birth as well as birth from heat and moisture, you must have had a mother. Therefore, this proves that you had limitless mothers in your limitless rebirths and you needed a mother. To enhance this even further, consider how, just as you had a mother in this life, you also must have had a mother in your previous life, which means you have had two mothers. Not only that, but this was the case in the life prior to that, and the life before that, and so on. You had 10 rebirths and 10 mothers, 100 rebirths and 100 mothers, 1,000 rebirths and 1,000 mothers, and so on. Using this line of reasoning, you thus come to the definite conclusion that you have had countless rebirths and countless mothers. Also, you may wonder, although I have had numerous mothers, there are limitless living beings, therefore all living beings could not have been my mother. But even if we take into consideration the number of all living beings, there are not enough of them to have been our mother only once. Instead, each one must have been our mother multiple times. Just in the body of a bull alone, we have been born 100 times, 1,000 times, and so on, until they become countless. The same thing applies to our previous rebirths as wild animals, such as a deer, antelope, and so forth, and as carnivorous animals, horses, donkeys, yaks, sheep, dogs, pigs, birds, and worms, as well as living beings that live in water, which have taken rebirths in bodies that don't even resemble living beings. There is no limit to the number of rebirths we have taken in each one of those types of rebirth. There aren't any of these places in which we haven't taken rebirth, and there is no limit to the number of times we have taken rebirth there as well. Thus, contemplate, there aren't any of these living beings that didn't act as my mother. The Buddha, with his clairvoyant perception, could not measure the number of times they have been my mother. If you still don't develop the recognition of all beings as your mother, it is permissible to shift your focus. When you think, they have absolutely not been my mother, use your mother in this life as direct evidence, counteracting this mistaken conception. Next, contemplate how you have been repeatedly born in the past and so forth, as explained earlier. Some may disagree, stating all living beings are not my mothers. If they were, I should recognize them as such. To dispel such obstructing conceptions, think, what need is there to mention the numerous mothers and children who, when separated from one another from the time of infancy in this life, don't recognize each other later in life, as in the historical account of Bhikshuni Utpala. Developing the recognition of all beings as your mother is extremely difficult. Therefore, make a concerted effort in accumulation purification as a means of generating this realization. If you develop this, the rest of the sevenfold instructions of cause and effect will be easy to develop. Regarding the measure of having developed the recognition of all beings as your mothers in your mental continuum, you have developed it when, upon seeing even the tiniest creatures, you think, this was previously my mother. She looked after all my happiness and suffering, just as laying me on her belly and so forth, at which time you vividly recall their kindness. You should develop the recognition of all beings as your mother according to J. Atisha, recalling their kindness. The way to recall the kindness of all living beings is to begin with your mother in this life. The way to recall the great kindness of all is also in regard to your mother in this life, in the beginning, middle, and end. Just like holding a jeweled vessel in your hands, she was very careful in all her daily activities of walking, moving around, lying down, and sitting, as well as whatever she shouldn't do that would cause her harm with great cautiousness. She even refrained from eating certain foods and beverages she enjoyed, and so forth. She would rely upon what was beneficial to you and make an effort to forsake those things which were harmful, and so on. Thus, in the beginning, your mother looked after you in her womb for 9 months and 10 days. She refrained from anything she thought might harm her baby, such as foods that are very hot or foods that are very cold. You could easily have died in your womb if your mother had acted in that way. In the middle phase with your mother, when you were born, you were fragile and weak. Your naked body resembled nothing more than a bug. With the exception of moving your limbs and crying, you didn't know how to do anything other than defecate. Yet for your mother, it was as if she had found a wish-fulfilling jewel, as she joyously lifted you with her 10 fingers, held you against her warm flesh, pleasantly called out your name, looked at you with a loving gaze, welcomed you with a loving smile, and gave you food from the tip of her tongue. Through the power of her love, you suckled her breast milk. She wiped the snot from your nose and cleaned up your feces with her hands. Although her child was in good health, she could barely sleep and could not bear to lie down out of fear that her child might die. At that time, you were not physically capable as you are now, and if your mother hadn't constantly protected you, you would have been eaten by a dog, cat, a raven, and so on. Or you might have fallen to your death in an abyss and would not have been able to survive for even a moment. Each and every day, your mother saved your life hundreds of times. She taught you everything, including how to eat, how to walk, how to talk. From the depths of your heart, given the choice, you would rather have been ill. She would rather have been ill than have her child be ill. She would rather have died than have her child die, and so on. Such are the ways that your mother nurtured you with kindness. In the final phase with your mother, she gave her son her home and gave her daughter away in marriage. She engaged in evil deeds and suffering, spiteful rumors, and scorn for the sake of accumulating food, clothes, wealth, possessions, and so on without hesitation. In particular, for those of us that became ordained and entered the door of the Dharma, with the exception of giving us empowerments or transmissions and commentaries, she escorted us up to the ends of the path to liberation and omniscience, which is something we would not have been able to do on our own. Thus, not only in this life, but in other lives when we had mothers, such as when we were animals such as birds and deer, our mothers also nurtured us by caring for us and providing whatever is of value, which is something we can directly witness ourselves. Previously, there was a Gelek bandit who one day was chasing a large number of horses and chased one in particular great distance. When he returned to his bandit camp with a pregnant mare that he had captured because she was unable to run quickly, he stabbed her with his knife, and after slashing open her belly with his knife, a foal emerged. Although the mare was unable to lift her own body, she nevertheless licked her foal out of her extreme compassion for her offspring. Seeing this, the bandit threw away his knife, escaped his former livelihood, and entered the Dharma by becoming ordained. For the sake of caring for her child, our mother accumulated a plethora of bad karma, because of which she will experience a multitude of sufferings in both this and future lives. Our Father and others cared for us with compassion in a similar way. If we contemplate the kindness that all living beings have likewise extended to us, we will see that there is no difference between the actions of your mother in this life and the activities of all living beings that have been our mother. Their activities as our mother are the same, and the kindness we nurtured us with is also the same. repaying their kindness. It would be extremely despicable of us not to acknowledge such kindness that living beings have shown us. Therefore, we must repay their kindness. There are two instructions with respect to the way to meditate on repaying their kindness. The first is revealed in the following verse from Chandra Goman's letter to a disciple, which states, while you see that your loved ones are engulfed in the depths of samsara's ocean, as if fallen into a vast expanse, it would be deplorable for you to strive for your own liberation and abandon those you do not recognize due to the process of birth and death. This is analogous to your own mother being swept away in the middle of a fiercely flowing river while crying for help from those on the riverbank. It would be a shameless, wretched, and deplorable act to remain on the banks of the river, idly playing, singing songs, and so forth, while she is calling out for help. The same way, it would be appalling if we were to strive our best to liberate ourselves alone without giving a second thought to our mother, living beings trapped in the expanse of the ocean of samsara, and at this moment calling out to us for help. Regarding another or second way to meditate on this, Shantideva's Compendium of Training states, driven insane by the afflictive motions, blinded by ignorance, and stumbling with each step as we walk along the paths of many cliffs, I and all other migrating beings continuously suffer on a foundation of torment. This is analogous to your mother being completely blind and without even a guide. She is driven mad and has lost control of her mind. And each and every instant she is stumbling and on the verge of falling over a cliff 1,000 stories high. Although she cries out for help, if you, her own son, don't save her, there is no more deplorable than you in this world. There is no one more.
Geshe Gelek is here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, please have a seat. Yeah, good evening. Alhamdulillah. Romasi, Carmen, good evening, Bob. Good evening, Geshe, Michael, Pati, Panditji. Good evening, Elise, Karen, good evening, Julie, good evening, David. So happy to see you again. Good evening, Bodhisattva Patrick. Good evening, Romini. Good evening, Govina. Good evening, Tom. Good to see you again, Ninja. Good evening, Helen. Good evening, Nili. Good evening, David. Oh. Alhamdulillah, what page?
We are on day 25.
Day 25, okay.
About repaying your mother's kindness.
We are already in the day 25, like how many pages?
Let's see. 10 pages into day 25. So we're about in the
Yes.
maybe about the middle of the chapter or the middle of the day.
Where? Can you give me any
About repaying your mother's kindness, about 6 cause and 1 effect training. And we finished a quote from Shantideva,
Mm.
Compendium of Trainings.
Right, okay, so repaying the kindness, right?
Yes.
Mm.
Sure.
So just beginning of the repaying the kindness?
Well, we about in the middle, after the quote from Shantideva, Compendium of Trainings.
Okay. Mm. So any questions, Ramasi?
No, Geshe, no questions.
No? Mm. So here, like, now we are section, the part that we are reading is like Mayana practice, you know. Mayana practice like highly emphasize on how to develop universal compassion and altruistic attitude for you to receive maximum benefit for your life, and not just this life, and setting a clear visions for your many more life in the futures. Setting up, you know, like spiritual path that, you know, leads you to happiness. So this is Mayana path. So the how, what kind of reason that we use to develop, to reach out each and every living being on this planet. How one can reach out each and every living beings, you know, through spiritual practice. That's what Mayana practice is all about. Mayana practice is how to serve, basically serve, and how to become as a how to serve each and every living being on this planet in order to you to get the maximum benefit. What kind of reason? The reason that we are here mainly focusing on relationship that we have with other living beings goes far beyond than our mind can conceive. Because when you think about this life, the first question that arises in practical level, the first question that arises is like, when this life began? So there's the important questions, you know, in order to lay the foundation for the universal compassion and bodhicitta. So first things that when my life began, is this has beginning? My life has a beginning. Is this the like first time that I become living being? Or this is not the first time, you know, there's like, what number is like 10, 20, 30? You can't really, that's the first questions that arise. So then when you think about the birth, you know, according to Buddhist philosophy, there are like 4 types of birth. Birth from the womb, all the mammals, you know. Then birth from the egg. The birth from the egg. Egg means like, you know, like chicken egg, that kind of egg. It's not like, we are not talking about here cell. We are not talking about cell, we are talking about the physical egg, birth from egg. So that is called like birth from the heat. I'm not sure what that really, how you can explain from the scientific point of view, but there are like yeah, probably so the word egg is being used very lightly. I'm not sure. Like there are certain species, they are like primarily born out of heat, like not really physical eggs. Anyway, according, for the sake of knowledge, according to Buddhist philosophy, there are 4 types of birth. Each time when you take rebirth, you go through one of them. There are not 5th or 6th, there are only 4 types of birth. When you take rebirth, you go through one of them. So, and then beside the birth from the heat, all the other births require parents. So mainly, whether we understand that clear or not, so my point is like, we may, we may think, oh, there's no relationship with me and, people from Tibet or people from like Indonesia because we live in different countries. So that's not, I think, according to Buddhist philosophy, that's not correct way of thinking. You may live in different countries, that doesn't mean that you don't have relationship. So according to Buddhist philosophy, our relationship go with the other living beings, go very deep, very, very deep. So that's the reason they use, it's not because you are related or you are looks like same kind, you live in the same country, or you are all like American or Tibetan, nothing to do with that. The foundation of the universal compassion is nothing to do with that. It has go much, much deeper than that. So first, that's the first and foremost important thing to think about in order to develop universal compassion. Otherwise, universal compassion, Bodhichitta, it just become like mere word. It doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean much. And when you think of Bodhichitta, there's not much, there's no feeling at all. Okay, so I just want to share that with you. So then you think about like in the small scope, Lamrim teaching is based on 3 scopes: small scope, middle scope, great scope, which refers to the Mahayana teachings. Small scope, mainly you are thinking about complications that we have because of this life. All kinds of complications related to the physical body, aging, sicknesses, death, all of that. Then all kinds of complications that relate to the mind. Uncertainty, dissatisfactions. There are many, complications that relate to the mind. So you mainly, small scope, you mainly focus on that and try to understand why this is happening, why we are dying, why we are getting old, why we're getting sick, why there's many questions, there's so many questions, so why, there's so many questions. And you're trying to understand that very existence of your life, you try to understand. So then you realize, then you this kind of analysis, thorough analysis about your own existence that comes with all kinds of complications. Studying that, then it leads to the Four Noble Truth. The sermon the Buddha gave after his enlightenment. It leads to the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. So then because there's this analyzing your own existence, that kind of curiosity or interest leads to the Four Noble Truths. So then you start to gain some kind of hope. Well, it doesn't have to be like that. No, it doesn't have to be like that. There's something that I can do. No, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be overcome. It can be. I can overcome from all these complications. Because all this complication has cause. It has cause. It's not just random. It's not just accident. We may think, oh, it's just a random accident. That's not really correct. Sorry to say, that's not really wisdom. There's not much wisdom there. No, it has cause. Everything's caused by something. Everything caused by something. So then you realize, oh, it's caused by something. Then you are thinking about, is there something that what I can do for the cause? Then you realize this cause can be ceased. This cause can be eliminated. So then you slowly try to understand what is moksha, what is nirvana. There's freedom from these complications. So then you kind of realize, oh, there is way out. You kind of realize we don't have to be like this way. There's a way out. So then you're thinking like how to get out. So then that leads to the path, which leads to the cessations. First, problems. It's very obvious that you don't have to ask and prove through logic. It's very obvious. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. It's in the United States, it's in developed country, it's in the developing country, it's like underdeveloped country, it's like third world country. Wherever you go, how many countries that we have, like, I'm not sure, like, how many countries? 100 and 200 something. No matter which country you go, you may have an idea, oh, I'm going to be completely, absolutely wonderful. You realize after a few months, there is problems. So no matter where you go, I've been to many, many countries. No matter wherever you go, Europe, United States, South America, North America, Asia, same thing. And there's more physical problems, like shortage of the food, shortage of basic necessity. There's more problem related to the mind, more stress, more anxiety, more fear. Some of them have less food, not like well-equipped shelter, houses, then all kind of problems. So then you realize, that's what is called samsara. There's one term they use in Buddhism that's called samsara. It's not like you are doing something wrong, that's like samsara. So then you gain like deeper knowledge of your own existence, you gain deeper knowledge of your own existence, then you kind of like, that kind of interest lead to the Four Noble Truths. So then there you gain some hope, so that you could, if you put effort, you could seize all the cause. You could reach to the cessations of all these complications. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be better. So then you realize what causes all these kind of complications. Then you realize there's something you can do for the cause. Then you put some effort. You see the benefit. Then when you're seeing the benefit, then they generate interest. That interest will generate some effort. The effort will produce results. So that's like moksha, liberations. Okay. So then now you have very clear, deeper knowledge about your own existence. So now you look around, it doesn't matter, your family member, your relatives, strangers, person you call as an enemy, everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody else is going through the same thing. You know, like everybody's like carrying out by this four great river. The Lama Tsongkhapa mentioned is one of his Lamrim. Three principal aspects of the path. Three principal aspects of the path to enlightenment. The text composed by Tibetan Master Lama Tsongkhapa. In that text, Lama Tsongkhapa stated very clearly, Shukta Chuoshi Junjiches. This river are not calm, it's wild. All of us kind of like carried out by the river equally. You, me, where you look. So that's the situation you see. So that is the reason why you sympathize with other people, why you sympathize with other living beings. Juda chuochi junjichi, dogali chiwa tampidams. This like wild river, four different types of, not just one, four different types of wild river that carries our life. Not just that, and our life itself is tightly bound with action and thought. Our own action and thought. Our own action and thought. Shuda chuoshi junjichi dogali chiwa tampidams. Danzu jaji tabe busu subs. Then we grab so tightly on self, the notion of self. We grab so tightly, you know, I. We grab so tightly, we're clinging so tightly on that I. So that itself is become like almost like iron cage. That just we are just trapped in there, just trapped in that, like I said, very tightly clinging on I, me, so tightly, you know. Danzu jaji tabe buzusus. Mari mumbe maji kunitim. So then like fundamental confusions, you know, not understanding the ultimate truth, conventional truth, ultimate truth, truth, ultimate truth, not knowing the ultimate truth, how things exist, how like I say, each time when you say I, how you define I, how you define yourself. In the Western developed world, you show ID. Not really you, but you know, that's how you identify. You have ID. Just show. Other people identify, they ask you to show your ID. So then they just, okay, that's you. But actually, it's much more complicated than that. Our identity, you know. Each time when you say I, how you define. We don't bother to analyze. We just go with that idea. That needs to be. We need to learn that, you know, how you define self. Yeah, without this body, there's no way to identify. You need to rely on this physical part of your body in order to identify yourself. It does not mean that your physical structure is self, is you. It's not part of not you. No, you probably come from, I'm not sure when it continues goes. So that's quite important to analyze. That's why the Danzo Chachi Buzo so Marim Martin Kunitim. That's how that never been free from those complications. We just go along with that idea. So then life after life, then that's like rebirth again, then all kind of complications again, there's another, then, it never been we never thought about freeing ourselves. So now today, somehow you got interested into Lamrim teachings, and that clearly explain how you can offer yourself ultimate freedom from all these complications. All these complications. You don't have to go through that. You can stop them. So you realize that you have chance to completely stop all these complications. You realize. So then, good news. Good news. I'm not sure how long it will take, but at least start the journey. At least start the journey. At least start the journey. At least be aware. Be aware. Oh, that was expected. It's not like, oh, that's kind of shocking. That's kind of shock. That's not shock. That was expected. Headache. Oh, kind of expected because you have head. In the first place, if you don't have head, you never get headache. So you have head, so maybe, so that you probably get headache some here, that was expected. That's not like unexpected or like surprise. It's not surprise. Like, thing doesn't go the way you want it. But that was expected. That was not surprise. That was expected. At least you are fully aware. When it's happened, you know it is expected. There's less burden on your mind. There's less burden on your mind. It's not shock. It's not surprise. There's less burden on your mind. So that's why Buddhists, we meditate on death every single day. So try to reduce the fear of death. Meditate, intentionally meditate on death every single day. That means every day you are prepared to die. It doesn't mean you're looking forward to death. It doesn't mean you're looking forward to death. But every day you are kind of like preparing yourself. You are kind of ready to go. If that happened tonight, there's really nothing to regret and nothing to complain, like that. So that, this meditation itself take care so many different types of fear or anxiety. It takes care of that. So many fear and anxiety. So should I choose this is like notion of self and clinging so tightly on that it becomes like iron cage that we are trapped in there. So now it's time to release, open that cage, to free yourself from this so tightly clinging. Does not have much clue what you're clinging on. You think the self, maybe you are clinging on the body, that's not you. Then it's very important to find out what you are clinging on. Maybe that something you are so tightly clinging on does not exist. It does not exist at all. You are clinging so tightly on something that does not exist. It's just your idea that you just made it up, probably. Not based on nothing, based on something, of course, based on this physical body, but never further analyze. So then you life after life, never been free. So then there's the three types of complication that clearly stated in the 4 Noble Truth teachings. So that is life after life. So now you, unless you're free, everybody else, same boat. No matter Somebody looks young, success, millionaire, billionaire, everybody the same boat, same complications, same problems. So based on that, then you feel sorry, you sympathize with them, you feel empathy, you feel sympathy, and you want to walk, you want to dedicate your life to help them to lead out of this cycle of complication. You really, from deep down from your heart there, you want to free all of them from this cycle of complications. Like what you call in ancient time in the countryside, in the farm, they have like this water wheel, many small box. Just go round and round and round and round and round. One box gone, go down, comes up, then again goes down. It's like this. It's a cycle of complications. You yourself, through study, through analysis, you realize there's a way out. So now you want that freedom for everybody else, not just for yourself, everybody else. So now you are working for that freedom for everybody else. That's called Bodhichitta. You realize there's a relationship, there's connection between you and others is very deep. You realize, so then you dedicate your whole life, either like saying prayer, everything, saying mantra, you think about benefit, you think about the freedom for other beings. When you say prayer, you are thinking much, much bigger than yourself. Then eventually your own problem becomes nothing. Then you gain so much courage, you gain so much courage, you feel like if you want to live in the fire pit, eons, not 1 minute, 1 hour, eons, that's like long time. Just to have one living being. That living being could be like ant, could be cockroach. You get like that much courage that like if you need to live in the fire pit thousands of years, you don't regret at all. You don't regret. You are so happy to live there just to have one living being. So you have that much courage. Because of the power of that courage, small problem here, there's become nothing. It's become nothing. Really nothing. So you always have that courage. You work for that courage. Now there's universal compassion. You have so much compassion. All your problems is eliminated by the power of the compassion. You have all these small problems just because you are thinking much, much bigger than yourself. So that's why I'm saying you get the maximum benefit. Even this life, very life you see, you breathe, even this life, you get so much benefit. Then you feel like your life has so much meaning. Your life has so much meaning. Your life, everything that you do, even just eating, drinking, walking, sleeping, everything has a meaning. It's not just meaningless. Everything has meaning. Taking a nap has meaning. Believe it or not. Taking a rest has meaning. Everything has meaning, You never ever feel like your life is not meaningless. No, you never feel. You never ever feel that your life is meaningless. Every moment of your life is meaningful because you gain so much courage. So much courage. Just think about that. Just wishing one person, if you realize somebody's having migraine headache, if you wish that person to be free from that migraine headache, compared to this cycle of complication, the migraine headache is nothing. It's nothing. Just think about if you're having a wish that person will be free from this migraine. Can you imagine having that wish towards every living being? Can you imagine how much magic you create? how much positive energy you create. Wow, that's why I'm saying that you have so much courage. You gain so much courage. All this physical wrongdoing, verbal wrongdoing, mental wrongdoing, these are all like burned to the ashes, like the power of the courage or compassion, bodhicitta, will purify all of them, instantaneously purify all of them. You know, even just like remembering bodhicitta, like I say, like reviewing some Lamrim meditations and where you reach the section of the Maya and the path, just reminding yourself verbally, reminding yourself, you feel so good, you feel so good. That is mental happiness, which is badly needed for all of us. That happiness will not decrease. That happiness has potential to increase. Eating a pizza, first bite, probably 100% bliss. Second bite, probably 90%, 99. Third bite, probably like 98. It can decrease. Looking at something, first time, going to the Machu Picchu, Peru, and the first moment get so excited, seeing same thing again and again, decrease. Happiness level decrease. Then get tired. Seeing ruin after ruin, ruin. First, so excited, walk with 6 miles all the way up to the hill, see, then after a few minutes. These are all called contaminated happiness. Never increase. Contaminated happiness, never increase. But anything you manage to generate through thinking, likewise I mentioned, I mentioned, that never decrease. It has potential to increase. It can be increased tremendously. Oh. So that's the Bodhichitta. Okay, that's what we are learning here. We are in the section of the Maya and the path, and there's 2 instructions coming from Shakyamuni Buddha to Maitreya Buddha to Asanga Shantideva. So then Maitreya Buddha to Manjushri Nagarjuna. There's 2 different lineage. So these are the lineage, means instructions how to develop this altruistic attitude called bodhicitta. Minute you start to think about something good about other people. No, this life, we may not able to see every living being that's on the planet. Probably it's impossible. I mean, physically. Mentally, you can relate it to them. Physically, you may not see them. No, a lot of them, you may not see them. But just think about, when you see someone, minute you start to think something positive about that person, you gain benefit, you get maximum benefit. You gain not physical happiness, you gain mental happiness. If you can do that for the true person, if you see the true persons, if you're thinking something good of true persons, you get true benefit. If you can see a 4 person, 4 benefit. Those people who sense your positive energy, so they feel comfortable being around you. They feel safe, they feel comfortable. You make more friends because you are having a noble thought. You are not having negative thought, you are having noble thought. The noble thought motivates you to say noble word, noble actions. Therefore, people feel safe. I think that's how like Saint Francis from Italy, Saint Francis managed to communicate with animals because of power of the mind, not because physical body. At that time, there are many human beings, not all of them can communicate, or you all have the same physical structures, not because of the power of mind, power of noble thought. Power of noble thought, animal also sense that they have nothing to worry about you, in a sense. Power of noble thought, you can communicate. It doesn't have to be language, you can communicate. Oh, even the spirit, the evil spirit, power of your compassions, they will not harm you. Power of compassion. So that's very important. So if you manage to think about something positive about all the beings every day, can you imagine how much like noble thought you generated throughout the day? Oh, so that's all happiness. That's all mental happiness. Okay. So especially nowadays, last 2 years, like because of this virus, we desperately need peaceful mind, calm mind, more happiness in the mind. That's badly needed. You can gain that through practice. Okay, like thinking about Bodhichitta instructions, thinking about you have choice. You could think, oh, that person is evil, or you could think that person maybe that person might have been your mother. You might have received so much benefit from that person. The truth be thought, you could tell that person is evil, don't believe in the same thing that I believe, doesn't look like same as I do, or don't eat hamburger, like this. Negative thought, disturbing thought. They destroy your peace of mind. You get nothing. So that's why the minute you start to think of something positive, not just focus on your own difficulties, thinking much bigger than yourself, So that's the benefit of Bodhichitta. Bodhichitta, what Shantideva says, Chanju Semji, Tashu, Teve, Chonga, Kunsevi, Chonga, means sadness, depressions. Deeper form of sadness, depressions. Teve, Chonga, Kunsevi, Kun means all, not just one, all. Chanju Semji, Tashu means Bodhichitta is like horse. Then if you manage to ride that horse will bring you to happiness. Shantideva, Master Shantideva said, Teve Chonga Kunseve, Chanju Semchi Tashuni, Dene Deva Dova, same year Sushi, Julu Jus. Shantideva said, if someone has mind, why you feel discouraged to ride that horse? Another way, why you don't ride that horse? Eventually, you just see pure. You don't see any impure. You just see pure. Because you're thinking about that. That is a meditation. The minute you start to think about bodhicitta, that is meditation on bodhicitta. Meditation doesn't mean you have to sit like this. Yeah, certain meditations require to sit down, particularly concentration meditations, you probably need to sit down. Not every form of meditation you need to sit down. You can be walking around, but thinking about the welfare of other living beings, you are meditating on bodhicitta. While you are eating or drinking coffee, if you are thinking about welfare of other beings, you are drinking and simultaneously you are meditating on bodhicitta. So Dharma practice is not that difficult. You can practice in every event. You can practice while you're walking, biking, riding, driving, cleaning, eating, cooking. Dharma practice can be. So that's why once you manage to generate bodhicitta, everything that you do in life become mind practice. That's exactly what it means. That's exactly what it means. When you are taking a shower, you are thinking about the welfare of other beings. When the weather is bad, you are thinking about. When the weather is nice, you are thinking about. When you enjoy a good meal, you are thinking about. When you are not getting good meal, still you are thinking about welfare of other beings. So, no matter what you do, you always thinking about benefit of welfare of other beings, betterment of other beings. That's why, so it is like Senjur Gitsi, according to Master Shantideva. Senjur Gitsi means there's like some kind of like chemicals that turns into metal into gold. I'm not sure what you call.
That's called alchemy, Geshe.
Huh?
Alchemy?
Yeah, alchemy. Buddhist is like that. I don't remember the stanza, but I don't remember the meaning. I don't remember the stanza. Chanju simchi juna kichi ki koe sura dhumi nyamta nams. Then all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, all the spirit, all of them kind of bow down to you because you're practicing bodhicitta, because you're working for the welfare of all mother sentient beings. So like that. So please, if you are very interested in bodhicitta, so read the benefit of bodhicitta, Guide to Buddhist the Way of Life, 10 chapter number 1st and 2nd. There's intensive explanation of benefit of bodhicitta. Okay, so then, like and I said this many times, spiritual practice is not separate from your life. It's like it should be part of your life. It's like taking care of yourself. That's all. Nothing else. Spiritual practice means like taking care of yourself. It's not like you're trying to change or no. Spiritual practice means helping yourself. That's all. Whenever you start to do practice, any form of practice, reciting mantra, reciting prayers, prostrations, going around all setting of altar, just think about, I'm just helping myself. That's all. Nothing else. Helping myself. That is your moral responsibility. Moral responsibility. Don't just say, I love myself. Show some action. Okay, you can't just say, I love myself. That's not enough. No. Show some actions. If you really love yourself, generate a noble thought. Transform your speech into noble. Transform your action into noble. So then, when you say, I love myself, it means something. It means really something than just word. So this is our moral responsibilities. One of the Katama masters said, my precious previous life, give me this wonderful gift. Now you yourself, don't throw that out of clip. So that means what that means, you yourself don't throw this precious gift that you receive from your previous life, precious previous life, somehow managed to give you this wonderful gift. Don't ruin, don't criticize, don't look down. Nothing good comes out. Being critical, looking down, what you gain? Nothing, nothing. So you should not waste this precious human life, precious gift that you receive from your previous precious life. Work so hard, provide you this precious gift. So now this precious gift, you should not throw there off the cliff. Means indirect, it means that you have moral responsibility. Make it better. Make it better. That's your moral responsibility. Nothing to do with religion, beliefs. It's your moral responsibility. Not just take care of this life, many more life in the future. There's something you can do now that will take care of many more life in the future. That's your moral responsibility. Or how's about I made mistake? Sometimes I do stupid things. I made mistake. When other people make mistake, you feel sorry. When other people going through difficulty, you feel sorry, or you feel like, yeah, human nature, you feel sorry. How come you don't feel sorry for yourself when you are making mistake? How come you become so critical about your look? That's just an example, many things, many things. So that you need to approach to yourself. If you are practicing bodhicitta, you need to approach to yourself with full of compassion, kindness. Unless, I said this very clearly, unless you're gaining something positive, looking down on yourself, if you're gaining some noble thought, that is possible, it is possible. Being critical, looking down on yourself, if you're gaining some noble thought, there's some reason. Other than that, it is no good. It is no good. It's no good. Finding out your own mistake, physical mistake, verbal mistake, mental mistake, focusing on that. If you're gaining some noble thought, there's some reason. Other than that, it's not good things to do. Not good things to do. Oh. That's why Lamrim teaching began, first topic after the Guru devotion is precious human life. Buddha knows that we are not being kind to ourselves, knows very clearly. We don't think something precious of ourselves. We don't think positive things of ourselves. Knows. That's why this Lamrim, this holy book, begin with, after the Guru devotion, it begins with precious human life. You can remind yourself, repeating the word, precious human life. It's a precious. Why is precious? If you take this opportunity, you could liberate. You could bestow one of the most precious gifts you can offer to yourself, liberations. It's only happened because of this life. Without this life, even hard to learn. Even within the animals, some of them are very smart. How long it takes them to learn few sentences? When they learn few sentences, everybody's kind of surprised. Oh, the animal can say, "How are you?" You are not surprised that you could say, "How are you?" This means nothing. You are learning about Lamrim, this means nothing. Some other pieces learning some word that you kind of like amazed, posted into YouTube everywhere, people are looking. Like that. Precious human life, okay? So that's what it means, like no matter how many words has been quoted here, I'm sure like many things, the text quoted, Lama quoted from Shantideva text, either guide to Buddhist way of life or like, what is another one called Lamula? Sublime, not sublime, another text. Continuing.
A compendium of trainings by Shantideva.
Yeah, there's two texts. There's Guide to Buddhist Way of Life is all written in stanza. Another text, just Venerable Hamula just mentioned, this is all loose sentence, mainly quotation from Sutra, directly taught by Buddha. Many quotations from the Sutra. Why Shantideva do that? That means Shantideva did not make things up. It's coming from Shakyamuni Buddha. That's why another text is all loose sentence, it's not stanza. It's all quotation from the sutra, different sutras, to back up what Shantideva said in the Guide to Buddhist Way of Life, and it's already been said in the sutra. When you look at the sutra, you'll find there. So that's like the source, like let's go. Sorry, so the first day. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been 1 month, so need to look at the time. So that is pretty much, like instructions, 2 types of instructions, helping you to understand why it's important why Bodhichitta is so important. First, you need to understand why it's important. And once you see it's very important, and there's all this benefit, from A to Z, there's so many benefits. So then interest, so then effort, then produce result. So then once you gain the interest, then you want to know how to develop, how to generate. Then there's 2 instructions. So the one instructions coming from Shakyamuni Buddha to Maitreya to Arya Asanga to Shantideva, Shantideva and Lama Atisha, the Indian master Atisha, possess both instructions, both lineage. So then in Tibet, of course, the lineage comes from Lama Atisha, because Lama Atisha did come to Tibet, helps reestablish Buddhism in Tibet. So then instructions come directly from Lama Atisha. So then that's why His Holiness always says Tibetan Buddhism is Nalendra traditions, because it's coming from Nalendra traditions. Nagarjuna, Arya, Asanga, these are all graduated from Nalendra monastery back in India. So then Lama Atisha, Dibamkara, Shirijana, Lama Atisha, Dibamkara, Shirijana, Pande Atisha, so possess both lineage. So then Lamrim is coming from Lama Atisha. So then you learn the 2 instructions. So then think about, while you're walking, cooking, cleaning, think about that. So then you are meditating on Bodhichitta, all right? So then you get maximum benefit. Power of the positive thought, noble thought, power of noble thought. You get so much benefit, you become more calm, more peaceful, more caring, more loving. That's exactly what world needs. More loving people, more caring people. All will be better up. Everybody get benefit, all will be better up. Insect around you, they don't have to after your life. You are not going to kill them, because you realize their life is precious too. You realize because their life also possesses Buddha nature. So the insect you see, more likely their life is going to be safe. So they can imagine it's all the thought. People, they don't feel fear or afraid around you, so you are never going to harm them at all. So that's the benefit. Okay, that's the benefit. So then if you die with that kind of mind, altruistic attitude to bodhicitta, nothing to worry. Next one is going to be something wonderful. Nothing to worry. Okay, so so then Venerable Lamula, now this text is about to finish. I think finally.
Let's see.
How many pages left?
Let's see. 6, 4, 7, 1, 6. About 185 more pages.
That doesn't sound like about to finish. That will probably take like maybe 3 more or 4 more class. I'm not sure, like at least 8 more class. So anyway, so all my friends here, so now time is running out, including myself. I'm trying all my best every day. I wish you do the same thing, so that we need to learn how to think something positive throughout the day. Okay, we've been thinking negative, doesn't benefit at all, doesn't benefit. So we need to learn using Bodhichitta as a practice and learn how to think something positive. And don't ever forget, this is precious gift that you received from your previous precious life. Give you this wonderful gift. This is precious gift. So that needs to be kept in mind. So Tenjoniaga, Tsela Longaba, Yela means think. Yela means think. Tsiddhi means this life. This life. Everything that appears in this life, everything that appears in this life. Now, Shen means clinking. That's why I'm not able to free, because this clinking so tightly. Need to loosen up a little bit. I myself, always, every day, I myself remind myself, we need a reminder. We forget. We forget. We need a reminder. Every single day, I remind myself, my life is precious. Every single day. This day without gone by reminding myself, my life is precious. Every single day I do that. Not just one time, few times. Remind myself that my life is precious. And that preciousness also impermanent. Get the most out of this. Make sure it doesn't slip through by nothing to your hand. That's precious. So in the end of the day, you will feel good. So that's the beautiful about the practice. That when you finish, you feel good, and you dedicate it for the welfare of all mother living beings. So then it becomes easier and easier. So then the idea is, maybe to generate a bodhicitta. So that might take long time, but at least journey's already started. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much. So now time is out. Yeah, time is out. So whenever someone will do the dedications. So then see you next Wednesday. Okay, so please be safe and be warm. So if you are living in East Coast, so it's kind of getting cold. Yeah, thank you, and have a wonderful night. Tom, your beer is gone.
That's true, but it may be coming back.
You liberated all your beard?
Yes.
I think on the wrong time.
Yes.
Okay.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhichitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increased more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samandabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect, pure Losang Drapa to shine forever. Now the long life prayers, first of His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chen Rezi, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then for Third Day Khensen Rinpoche, Jetsun Losang Gelek, the one who mastered his speech at a very young age, the one with great patience who received the name Avatare, the one with great precision who spread the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa and Bliss and Void, ornament of the yellow hat tradition, please remain until samsara ends. Along my prayers for Lama Tsongpa Rinpoche. You uphold the subduers more away who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine. To masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, save for myself and others, your disciples, please live long. And then, of course, let's see, I think we're going to skip this. Go directly to, it's not in here. So 7 green tar mantras for Geshe and Geshe Sangpo's long, healthy, happy life. Om Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Om Tare Tu Re Soha.
Okay, thank you very much. So very happy. David is very now fully recovered. So it was great. So very happy. So Tom, so how's Joanne? Joanne is doing good.
She's all good. Geshe.
Very good. So please say hello to Joanne and Mark, Janice.
You bet.
And kids, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Okay,
Thank you,
wonderful
Geshe,
night.
so much.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Geshe.
Geshe.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Good night.
Mongo.
Oh, yeah.